Hello everyone, welcome to Astro Life on Instagram. I'm Rod Chang. Once a week, I will meet you here and with another astrologer talking about the current transit and the current affair. Well, today I invite my good friend Fernanda come to join us, and we were going to talk about what's going to happen the next lunar eclipse. So let me invite Fernanda first. So, while this moment we are in between the eclipse season, so there's a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse is happening, in 2 weeks time. And then, so the 2 weeks ago, we have the solar eclipse happening, and now is the lunar eclipse. And clicking my screen because I don't know why. Every time I have to keep answering until they get it. Hello.
Hey.
Hi. So nice to meet you,
Hello.
Fernanda. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah. How are
Cool.
you?
I'm very well. I like your new hairstyle.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so how's your experience about this eclipse season between solar eclipse and lunar eclipse?
Well, I have to say it's been quite creative for me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been very enjoyable so far. So yeah. So lots of like new ideas for work and
That's
things like
lovely.
that. So not many dramas here on this side. How about you?
Oh, well, no drama, but boring side is administration. I have to do the accounting things for the tax return. So every day is like numbers, figures, and then oh my God, how much money I spend? But it's
Oh
not very
gosh.
creative, but it's okay. I have to do that.
Yeah.
But also I prepare the 2024 program. So we have the coming up the conference for the
Mm-hmm.
AOA Academy of Astrology online conference, the first one. And then for the end of November is the Chinese week. We will have a speaker translating to the Chinese
Wow.
and introduce their idea to Chinese speaking area. But in the first week of December, we have our English track. So you will see all our familiar face, Fernanda, Lian, and Fernando and Mark and Luisa. They will all join us to talk about what they study and what they prepare. I also have Fernanda, and I remember I just go back to check. Fernanda is going to talk about Jupiter Uranus
Yeah.
conjunction. That is a
Yeah.
pretty important, to be honest. One of the important significator of the financial astrology and social development, I think.
Wow. Oh, yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Yeah, definitely. It's going to be one of the big ones next year, huh?
Yeah, definitely. So, but before that, I think today we're going to focus on the lunar eclipse. So, first, could you share with us your view of the lunar eclipse and what's different? Is there difference between solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse in your view about that their influence to people?
Nice. Yeah. I mean, obviously they're part of a different moment in the cycle, isn't it? The
Mm,
lunar cycle. So just that I think already reflects the difference between the two. One being with the new moon and the other one being during the full
mhm,
moon as well. And there's something that Bernadette Brady said in one of her books that I really like about the differences between the two eclipses. So she said that the new moon solar eclipse tends to have something out there happening. So a new beginning that's kind of clear, there's something material that's happening.
mhm,
Whereas the full moon eclipse has got something to do with emotional releases. So they
mm.
tend to be a little bit more emotionally dramatic, which is kind of how I see the full moons in general anyways. So then I think the full moon eclipse is like a full moon in steroids. So it's a kind of a stronger, a stronger full moon that we tend to feel. So depending on what's picking up on your chart, you're gonna feel the drama more or less.
Mm.
It really depends on how personal that particular eclipse is gonna be for you as well. That's kind of how I see, in a nutshell.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Especially, I think when we visualizing it, solar eclipse is a something blocked and because the size of the moon sometimes is like partially block the sunlight or partially block the or total block the sunlight. So we probably kind of more or less see the dark things. You know, it's not just shadow, but the lunar eclipse is still happening during the full moon, and then Earth block the moonlight, but you never see moon totally disappeared. What we see is the moon just become red and red and red, and then kind of a dark moon. But there is a I don't know. I noticed, maybe I wasn't noticed that, pay attention before. Maybe they did it before. Is there is a trend. They like to call lunar eclipse blood moon. They say blood moon lunar eclipse. So I said sounds like the lunar eclipse itself is not scary enough. They have to on the top
call it blood.
put
Blood.
Yeah, and you just like, oh,
there will be blood.
Yeah, I remember there is one year they particularly mentioned that blood moon was coincidentally happened with the important Jewish festival or something, and they just like this happened all together is so bloody terrible. I just like yeah.
Yeah, I mean, eclipses have a history, isn't it? Like, it used to be like a scary time, and especially for leaders, isn't it? Like people in charge and things like that. So I don't know, the stories remains there, but like personally speaking, I don't, apart from when I'm actually having a transit as well. So I remember when there was an eclipse, and I think it was a full moon eclipse, so it was a lunar one, and I was having a Pluto transit to my moon, and it was right on my moon. So I mean, that just made the whole transit even more obvious. But it was very personal because I was having a transit as well. Whereas in other occasions, what I see from the eclipses is a kind of a change in an in-between worlds, but it's not that bloody usually.
Yeah, I agree. I agree you say about usually the lunar eclipse usually is emphasized on emotion and the feeling, and they emphasize it. They just, like you say, story. They just enlarge, they just emphasize it. And sometimes it's like you are just agitated. I can easily notice is the eclipse because I usually don't sleep very well that time. Because I just like get very excited or something, or very upset or something.
The energies get.
Let us focus on this lunar eclipse. So it's on in 3 days time on 28th of October, and the sun would be in the 5-degree Scorpio, and the moon would be the 5-degree Taurus. So I mean, what do you is your interpretation and your delineation, and also I will, while you're talking, I will try to show the chart so our audience can enjoy the what they see in the chart. Okay, but I also see Terry, our friend Terry, just sent a message. Do you look in the natal chart if the person was born during the eclipse and it make any differences? I think that people born in eclipse, one thing I notice is they are super sensitive to the lunation. They are super sensitive to the eclipse type thingy because it's a family thing. It's family thing. The one thing I noticed is the British royal family. They are very, very related to this lunar cycle, either solar eclipse or lunar eclipse. Well, Donald Trump was born in, I think, a lunar eclipse too. So, is that different? I think if they want, they can exaggerate it a little bit. Don't you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, I haven't personally observed as well, but like if someone comes to see me and they were born during the eclipses, it means that they're going to have their personal planets near the nodes.
Yep.
So for me, that is relevant, but because of the nodes themselves, like I don't actually think of an eclipse straight away, like as but that's maybe because I don't know that much as well about how an eclipse will affect a personality or someone in particular. But for me, it's definitely relevant that someone has their sun or the moon near the nodes. And so I'm definitely going to pay attention to that and use that in my general interpretation as well of a chart. I find the lunar nodes very powerful in my personal observation. Transits wise, natal wise, it's always so easy to pinpoint some things with the nodes. It's like it's very rare that someone doesn't you know, resonate with their nodes. Like,
I
yeah.
agree with you. 100% agree with you. So, well, now let's go to look at this chart
Yeah.
and tell us what do you think. Okay,
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
let's do it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we've got a few configurations that would be very powerfully present during this full moon, which is obviously the Mercury Mars at 10-11 degrees of Scorpio and Jupiter at 11 degrees Taurus as well. So we've got this opposition between Mercury, Mars, and Jupiter. One thing I'd say about this configuration is you might feel very inclined to act on impulse, but try not to. This would be one of the things I'd say. Yeah, it's like it might be an intense energy, an intense revelation, an intense insight, or intense emotions at that point, but it's not necessarily the best course of action. You might regret a few days later and be like, oh God, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have taken that action, because it is a bit impulsive. I think the Mercury Mars speaks without thinking, you know, sharp tongue, and in Scorpio as well. So you might be able to bite someone very strongly and then regret later, you know, your words. And I think the opposition to Jupiter there as well is enhancing even more, is making it even bigger, even larger, even more restless. That's kind of the feeling I have from this configuration. Is like, you might get strong revelations, but try not to act on impulse. Try to sit with them if you can. Try to meditate on them. Try to observe them for what they are. You know, just learn from what comes up, rather than just rush into trying to take action based on it. That's what I would, the first thing that catches my eye. What do you think about this opposition there, Rod?
I think I 100% agree with you with that sharp tongue, and then really because it's in the Scorpio. So there is kind of things you can say, you know what, I know your secret and I know what you fear, and I can really nail it down, and then really kind of we can kill someone with our tongue, and that sounds pretty horrible. But I learned from what I also think is the access of the Scorpio and the Taurus. They can bring out that kind of a fear of the insecurity inside of our heart, a kind of a survival crisis, or we've been threatened about maybe our life or our economy, or anything about the life and death situation, because the Scorpio and the Taurus axis is like a life and death. It's like a stable of life, or we're living in a crisis and handling this. Well, I think this is very interesting because of Mars right opposite Jupiter. It's kind of like a pretty explosive. So it may be some people, if they've been triggered, first, allow me to say that if they've been triggered, and second, if they choose to let go of it, instead of take it calm and then think about it, and then to think how we're going to handle that, and just like let go of it because it's explosive. This kind of what should I say? This kind of desire to kill everyone, or to destroy everything, if you public shame me, or if you make me lose my face, I will kill everyone, including myself.
Yeah, there is a drama there.
Yeah, there's a tendency like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely see that there too. That's why I'm saying, feel your feelings. Yeah. Paint something, dance, do something else. Try to channel those feelings, write, you know, get that Mercury Mars conjunction and write letters that you're not going to send.
please don't send it out, because if you send it out, there's something we call like a blackmail or poison pen.
Poison pen, exactly.
That's very likely to happen, to be honest, and from foreign land, from Jupiter land, you know.
yeah, absolutely. And also, you know, another thing that really catches my eye and like makes me think is the Taurus side, because the moon is in Taurus as well, and it's a lot about values. So whatever the drama that we might encounter and this intensity and this strong, you know, survival issues, it's really important to be in tune with your core values in a situation. I think that's the moon in Taurus, the Jupiter there as well, the Venus in trine to that Uranus coming to trine that Uranus a little later. But, you know, Venus rules that Taurian side. So be a little bit more grounded with it and try to think in practical terms. Like, okay, this situation is really triggering me. What is that to learn? What is that I can learn from this? What is that I can apply into my life when things settle a little bit more? And it has to do with core values. You know, what are your core values? I think we take for granted and we don't realize what's really important to us, you know, and I think this is such a huge positive way to make decisions, to, you know, create your life. Basically, is like knowing what's the non-negotiables. And I think this full moon can show you some of these things as well.
I agree with you. What you say, what you're talking about. Let me turn the image back. I want to see my own face now. Okay, I'm quite agree with you. What you're talking about, that the Venus trine the Uranus, because the Venus in Virgo, well, is taking kind of a humble and the practical approach toward to solve this problem. Well, also this Venus is nothing really to do. Well, kind of, not 100% going to, you know, it's kind of a pretty close aspect going to a small minus aspect with the Mercury, and then that is and the Mars. So you can see that Venus is trying to help, but the kind of very humble, very practical, but sometimes people probably not listen to it.
Yeah, it doesn't have such a strong voice, isn't it? It's a bit, it's not as loud. No. I think that Mercury Mars opposite Jupiter will be louder.
Oh yeah, it's like loud and crazy. But sometimes we have to think of maybe I'm getting a little bit older. So when I was young, I would say, let it go. You know what? We don't care. Just do it. Just say it. Speak it out. But now we're just like, are you really sure you want to say that?
Yeah, exactly. Because it creates so much problem, isn't it? That's unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. I think that's definitely one of the biggest points of this full moon there. And it's also the last eclipse in Taurus and Scorpio, isn't it? We had a whole series of it because the nodes were in Scorpio and Taurus last year. So I think it's like the closure of a bunch of lessons that we've been, you know, learning in relation to letting go, in relation to aligning with our core values, in relation to stability as well. You know, like sometimes we talk about stability and we crave it so much, but we don't help build it as well.
True. Yeah. It is.
So I think, it's like the last, you know, the closure of all of these big, you know, changes that we've had since last year connected to that.
I agree.
As well.
Yeah. Well, talking about, because we mentioned about the lunar eclipse, because it's also a full moon. So you say it's like a full moon with stereo. I really enjoy that expression. So, would you thinking about the lunar eclipse are usually more manifest by or through the partnership and relationship as is a opposition of a full moon type?
I think so. I mean, I think full moons have a little bit of this characteristic of stirring emotions and stirring situations, isn't it? It gets intense, but I still feel it might be about setting boundaries and you know, expressing our anger. It might be because of that Mercury Mars in Scorpio there, you know, it might be some old resentment that might come up as well if we've been like giving too much and being too compromising throughout relationships, etc. And I think that's also the North Node in Aries. You know, it's like the collective lesson that we're all learning, like how to be more assertive, how to be less people pleasing. And so I think what happens with full moons is it tips the scales. It gets very unbalanced. It's almost like a big scream and an exaggeration, so we can see what's going on. So we might feel a huge anger about someone asking for a small favor, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's just because you've been doing it so much that's showing you how fed up you are. So I do feel that it does manifest in relationships, you're right, but it tends to show us something. It's like a big spotlight into situations that have been going on. They're going on. They're not going to just happen now. but we're a lot more sensitive to it.
Yeah, I like I like what you say about it's kind of a you exaggerated a situation or any kind of things, and that's it's still ongoing, but we choose to point it out and name it and calling out of it, and then
Mm-hmm.
like you say, well, in the end of the day, you may be going to regret for that if you really go crazy
With those
about it.
feelings. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Especially if you have anything in your natal chart, because then
Mm,
you become a voice for that. So let's say you've got your ascendant at 11 degrees of Scorpio and you've got that
yeah.
Mars right there.
Yeah.
And so you literally become a voice piece for it, and you're like, ah. And then you
Mm,
later on, you're like, oh gosh, I think I exaggerated a little bit. I don't feel that way anymore. You know,
mm,
feelings, they passing by, they come
mm-hmm.
and go.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of what these lunations show us, and as we get older as well,
Mm-hmm.
is that we can, the best you can be a container for it, the better,
Yeah.
because you get the revelation, you get the insight,
Mm,
but then you can do something constructive with it rather than just, you know,
yeah.
you're just a piece there being like slapped by the energies, you know, like you don't have any control of your life or what you
Mm,
do and what you say. I think, you know, it's learning how to be a container for it. Yeah,
I
it's
100.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, being prepared for it, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like there's gonna be a storm, so what do? You know, you get your umbrella, you get your,
Mm.
like, you sort of prepare yourself for it a little bit. Yeah.
I agree with you because, like you say, we all learn from our life, and then no matter what's the transit, no matter what's the progression, we all learn a little bit from it. And the next time we face the similar situation, we know how to react. Like for example, we're talking about this lunar eclipse, and I can expect a kind of a hectic weekend is going to happen. And then so when I plan my weekend, I was just like be quiet, don't expecting too much. If someone say, should we do this? Should we do that around the weekend? I was just like, well, we will see. Is that going to happen? Because we will be so busy at that
Mm-hmm.
time, and the things could change, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it was a really interesting full moon we are going to experience. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think you know that this is the I like you say the last eclipse of this Taurus and the Scorpio axis. So I mean, we are learning this lesson about security, about how to look things with our you know and our value and with the things have impact or hiding inside of our heart with the Scorpio side hiding inside. So you know it's all about the learning and how we're going to handle that. So before we finish today's podcast, do you have any general suggestion how our audience going to apply these
Mm-hmm.
lunar eclipse energy in the life in the you know most useful or bestful way?
Yeah, I think one, beware that it is a volatile energy, especially with the Mercury, Mars, Jupiter that we talked about. So you just know that this is in the air, and so if you're a sensitive person, try to avoid crowds, and you know, so you can kind of. It's a sense of preservation I get from knowing what the energies are and knowing that
Mm.
they're volatile. Another thing that really comes to my mind, I think, positive ways of using that Mars, Mercury, and Scorpio, Jupiter, is martial arts. If you don't do martial arts literally, it's like symbolically doing martial
Uh-huh.
arts. Is knowing how to use your force and your strength.
Mm.
Is being intelligent with that intensity and knowing that there is an intensity in the air that you can channel. So
Mm.
how would you want to channel that? And
Mm.
that's why I think Bruce Lee, who had Scorpio, I think he had a Mars in Scorpio or something, and he talked about be like water.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what I'm gonna say.
I think that's that must be the what Bruce Lee. Yeah,
Yeah,
be water,
yeah,
be water. Yeah,
exactly.
that's a very
Be
famous
like
sentence.
water. So I make my, you know, Bruce Lee's my words, and I'm saying
Yeah,
be like water this
yeah,
weekend.
yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Talk about that. I mean, we are also very approach. I would just it's just a crazy question, and you don't need to answer. I'm just like,
Yeah.
but it's very creative, or maybe not. You tell me. When I look at a lunar eclipse chart, that with the Sun, Mars, and the Mercury conjunct nearly there, and this will also happen during the Halloween. So,
Yeah.
what kind of people are going to dress up
Yeah.
according to this astrology?
I think
What?
it can be really fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. What they going to dress? What do you think? What do you think before we close this? What
Well,
do you think? What kind of character? What kind of
I
character they're
think
going to dress?
that Mars Mercury makes me think of zombies for sure. Like the whole like eating people, you know, like. But it can also be a powerful witch, isn't it? Because it's a
Yeah,
Mars, Mercury, and Scorpio, very sharp,
yeah,
doing
yeah,
spells and, you know, directing that energy very
yeah,
strongly as well. But I think it's so auspicious to be happening on Halloween. It's
yeah,
insane how things happen sometimes.
yeah,
And
indeed.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I definitely not. I'm not gonna go to any parties. I'm too old for it anyway. It's a
Well,
little bit much.
yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, at this moment, that's true because I think if you are pretty sensitive, or if your chart have any planet near that degree, those degree from 5 to 11, or even maybe from 1, you already has like a feeling about you're going to have
Yeah.
a effect by this Scorpio and the Taurus lunar eclipse. So if you have any planet around 1 to 11 of the Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, or maybe Leo, they maybe
Yeah.
receive those impact and the shock. And the things you can do is first like be water and calm it down. And things that happen out there, and their impact to you, or you choose let them through you, or you choose let them hit on your face like like that.
Exactly. You resist and you try to react. And
Yeah.
also, I think that Mars Mercury can be great for journaling and journals in general, going deeper,
Mm.
reading things that you wrote about your
Oh,
emotions, seeing where you are in your psychological growth, you know, and be like, wow, yes, I was suffering with this, and you know, I've managed to overcome this. I think that's the Scorpio at best as well, isn't it? Is the whole
I agree.
psychological healing, regeneration, etc. So yeah, that
That
as
is,
well.
yeah, I 100% agree with you because that is the dig the past things out and then re-examine that. Maybe that Jupiter opposite side will help you to have a positive
See the bigger
insight.
picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Look things with a big picture. That's another thing. When you say that, I say yes. This around this time, if we are upset about something, maybe we should have a little bit big picture because of that Jupiter.
Yeah.
Maybe you will say maybe this is part of something, and we should be aware about it. Wow,
Yeah.
it is so interesting. Always, I really enjoy chatting with Fernanda, and when we start to talk about astrology, we can never stop.
Yeah.
We just bang, 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 and then, but I think half hour is enough, and the people will be enjoy this useful message and the useful tip about how to dealing with coming up lunar eclipse on the 28th of October. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Fernanda, and
Thank you,
I will
Rod.
really wait a minute before you go. Do you have a recent project or any?
Well, I'm working on a project, but still very
Okay,
early days.
okay,
Yeah, so not at the moment. I mean, I am, but behind the scenes, but
okay,
not just yet.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
What
the
about
only
you, Rod?
but super crazy for the conference. So
Yeah.
I think because we have a little bit change. One of our speaker couldn't make it, so I have invite another speaker join us, and then for that reason, I started to have our the discount for again. So if anyone haven't registered with our conference, please go to visit our website, and then we still have discount there, last minute discount. Please join us. Okay. Well, thank you,
Nice.
Fernanda. Well, I will see you next time. So
Thank
enjoy
you,
chat with
Rod.
you.
It's a
Thank you. Bye
pleasure.
bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye, everyone.